So down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, from Team SCA, it is SCAstrea, spawning as our blue Protoss. And up over yonder, his opponent will be ROOTminigun, formerly on Complexity, just recently switched teams over back to Root. I don't know, it makes me happy seeing him back on Root again. He's a player that doesn't compete a lot in LAN tournaments, but very solid online player. Always has been a ladder hero and is quite skilled. So I'm definitely looking forward to a good PvP series. Probably one of the last show matches I'll cast in Wings of Liberty, to be honest. And most likely the last PvP too. Nothing out of the ordinary here. It'd be quite awkward to see Proxy Gates featured in the first map in a best of 7. But I guess a little bit about the map. We have generally, we see on Daybreak, expansions taken relatively early. Not anything crazy. One gate of fees are actually somewhat common in extended series like this, but generally you'll have Robotech before you do get your expansion. A little while ago, DTs have been a little bit more popular in this matchup. They do give you a certain amount of map control, but Robos are just so common that generally they can't do all too much economic damage. I have to say though, I think one of the most interesting playstyles in this matchup is Parting, I think is the coin, was the one who coined the style where you get a DT out, do however much damage you can off of one base, you get an expansion behind, and then you do a 2-base push. Now the 2-base push consists of an Archon, which effectively neutralizes the force fields of your enemy. And it works great on a map like Daybreak too, where you really need those force fields to try and control the area as long as you do have an expansion of yourself. It's a little bit easier to just use minimal sentries to force field the ramp, obviously. Really enjoyable to watch. Both players taking their second gas. Interesting gas timing here from Minigun. I guess what we should look for at this point is whether or not he will actually take single probes off the geysers here, or continue on mining with 3 on each. SCAstrea disrupting the mineral lines a little bit, but nothing out of the ordinary thus far. We do have a second gateway coming out here, so it will be 3 stalker pressure from our blue Protoss. This is something that we see very common nowadays in PvP. The Mothership core has definitely changed openings in Heart of the Swarm for the most part, but in Wings of Liberty, I would have to say that this is the most common opener in a PvP. So if you're looking for a solid build, check this out. The Zealot and the Probe are playing tag right now as a sentry comes out, and SCAstrea's probe will get away. Meanwhile, we do have a Twilight Council coming down behind this. Blink isn't that great, Blink obs play, but Blink is always a very solid choice, tech-wise. We also may actually see DTs, so I was talking about earlier. Depends on his additional gate timings. Although considering the fact that he got that second gas up quite fast, it could be a 1-base DT push. Meanwhile, we do have a Twilight Council coming down for SCAstrea too, and this most likely will signal some sort of blink. Whether it's 3-gate or 4-gate, we will see. Proxy Pylon actually going down quite soon. Starker out in front of his main ramp to try and deny access. And there we go, Proxy Pylon's all around. And it is going to be DT for both players. I like Minigun's positioning here. Maybe he can put the Zealot. There we go. Nice. Keep the sentries back just a little bit, in case your opponent pushes up with the Zealot and you don't quite get that force field off in time. Alright, so now, at this point, neither player has a Robo. Something key to note. Although, SCAstrea will definitely have map control for a little bit longer, as he does have a huge stalker lead right now. And Minigun's actually trying to get an expansion behind this as well. His sentries will be able to deny entry to his base for quite a while though. Already racking up a fair amount of energy on 1 or 2. 2 gates following up here for Minigun. He is adding a 3rd to try and defend this push. Is forced to cancel his own Nexus while, this is very important, SCAstrea actually gets his own up. Now where will the first DT be warped in here? Minigun has a choice. He can either pop one out for defense, or go on the front with it. And here, yeah, our first DT is actually going to be offensive. And this could do a ridiculous amount of damage here. Although, keep in mind the DT Shrine for his opponent has just finished up as well, so... Although we don't see any DTs warp in yet. I mean, he doesn't really have any need to. His contain is effectively broken at this point. He has opted to go back, and now the Robo comes down immediately, but there's no Forge Out. There's absolutely no detection whatsoever. Here we do have a DT warped in for SCAstrea as well. And Minigun, I don't believe he actually has a Robo of his own either. One is on the way right now, but it is not complete. Not for a long shot, and 2 DTs are now working on the robotics facility. It will be forced to cancel, and a Forge is coming down now for SCAstrea. But it just started. Minigun looking to go straight for his opponent's Nexus here. Interesting choice. Take a look at the DT of his opponent. Force Field's being used quite effectively, although the DTs do indeed get all of them. Now the robotics facility is powered by 3 pylons. Minigun obviously wants to make sure that he powers that, getting a 4th down. So the observer will come out, but when it comes out, will Minigun actually have enough units to try and trap this and kill it? Yes, he will! Very nice probe micro there. Meanwhile, at his opponent's base, SCAstrea is just... all of his gates are depowered, his base is in complete disarray right now. And the DT is now finally coming down the ramp. We'll soon realize that there's a cannon there. Oh, nice force field actually traps one of the DTs. He does not quite get the other, moving out of the range of the cannon at the last second. And unfortunately for Minigun, that is the end of his era of DTs here. Now, he can get an expansion behind this, but most likely we'll see him going for some sort of pressure, as he is committed to 1 base at this point. 22 to 25 workers after all of that. Workers killed tab 16 for SCAstrea, whereas Minigun only had 9. This isn't because his DTs did less damage. No, they got themselves a Nexus, every single pylon in the main base, so he was really committed to going for production rather than economy right off the bat. And we do now finally have a robotics facility following this up for SCAstrea as well. And yeah, this map control is just going to be really, really hard to try and come back from, as Minigun just has a huge presence on the map right now because there are no observers for his opponent. Whereas Minigun himself has 1 working on his 2nd observer. And right now, I mean, he has all production. He's been continually warping in additional units, and there is a DT wandering on into Minigun's base. It will get cleaned up, though, without doing any damage. And that's a big investment, especially when you're committed to 1 base like this. SCAstrea is going for... he's re-expanding to his own main. Meanwhile, Minigun cleaning up that proxy pylon in his natural. I have a feeling SCAstrea would know where his opponent's pylon will be, as he did do a little bit of back and forth search with his stalkers prior to moving out with his first 3. Alright, now it looks like SCAstrea is going to posture on the map at this point, looking to try and do some damage to his opponent. And I don't know. Right now, not looking all too great in terms of army supply, and this Immortal will be so valuable in any engagement that happens. Because, you know, like Minigun, he knows at this point. Oh, how do I get my camera back from this? There we go. Alright. A little bit of a observer hotkey mess up. Sorry, guys. But yeah, Minigun knows that his opponent's tech is stunted. And there are 2 phases in PvP. There's the early game phase where you're generally going to either commit to 1 base or 2 base. Immortals are a great unit for this. Immortals, they kill stalkers so incredibly quickly. And that's what we see very often for map control. They're fast units. They can be very aggressive with an observer and with blink upgrade. But then the 2nd stage is the Colossus stage. Now, he knows for a fact that SCAstrea's Colossus production will be halted. He depowered every single gateway in his opponent's main base. And there was a huge amount of time where Astrea was supply blocked as well. So because of this, we see him committing to Immortals. And here comes the Robotics Bay for both of our players. Oh, and he's actually going to drop these. Alright. Loading up the first two in that Warp Prism. Meanwhile, Observer making its way over to his opponent's base. It will actually most likely get picked off here. Sorry. And your Vatic Drive is actually being researched as well, instead of Extended Thermal Lance from the beginning. So that would be a little bit additional gas expenditure, but you really need it to make these Warp Prisms really pay for themselves. Immortals just do a fantastic amount of damage though, so we will see this quite soon repaying for itself. Although without that drive completed, yeah, it does finish. And this is the value of the Acrobatic Drive upgrade. So powerful when your opponent doesn't have Blink. I mean, just think about the Medivacs, how much of a boost it was to get that boost upgrade at Heart of the Swarm. They are so powerful now. Same idea behind Acrobatic Drive. Now let's take a look at Colossus production. We have one Immortal on the field for Astrea, 2 for his opponent. And in terms of Extended Thermal Lance, +1, everything seems to be even out. Quite an interesting first half of the game, but both players actually relatively even on just about every front here. Minigun needs to be careful with these Immortals though. One picked up, 2. Second takes a little bit of hull damage, but that will not be all too much of trouble. Now Minigun is taking a third behind this. And this is great. I mean, this is one of the main uses that you have for Warp Prism harassment. It keeps your opponent pinned back, because I don't want to take units out from my base when I know that there are 2 Mortals that have a Speed Prism wandering them around. Meanwhile, we do have 2 additional gates going down for Astrea, so he is going to commit to 2 bases here, at least for the near future. This might change, I don't know. But, oh yeah, he's actually going to take a Nexus. This is something that Creator often does. And Alicia's been doing it too recently. Alicia actually winning the Heart of the Swarm Invitational Heart of the Swarm qualifier for Korea over at IPL for IPL 6. So he's definitely coming back into the limelight. One of those ridiculously solid and consistent Protoss players over the course of the Wings of Liberty area. And apparently now in Heart of the Swarm as well. Something to note, 2 robotics facilities have been completed for Astrea, so he will begin double Colossus production, as well as for his opponent, who is now adding additional production. In terms of upgrades, we're still sitting at 1-1 for both players. Minigun actually researching +2. This is something that's quite common. Astrea seems to like going for double upgrades. He's one of those Protoss players that it's his style. He sticks with it. He's very consistent with it. Very rarely will you see him going +2, +3 before that +1 armor is complete. And charge on the way for Minigun. Now this, you may think that charge is just completely useless upgrade when you have this huge Colossus count, and it will get higher and higher and higher as the game goes on. But no, in terms of engagements, the positioning of your charge lots and how you use them in battle can really screw with your opponent's AI. And if he's not focus firing to his utmost potential, then they can really be game changing. And that is of course also where the armor upgrade comes in. Zealots are just so much more effective when you have armor. And this Colossi, Minigun targeted down, he does get 1. Will he get the 2nd? No, just opting to get out of there. Very nice map vision for Minigun. I mean, let's take a look at his vision right now. He sees his opponent's 3rd. The Warp Prism has been constantly in his opponent's base, trying to maintain numbers on unit counts, etc. He knows exactly what his opponent's tech is, what his upgrades are. And for Astrea 2, it's kind of a blind map. He does have a proxy palette over yonder, but that's really more for warp in potential than map vision. Here comes the Colossus train, and we will potentially have an engagement here as Minigun is moving out. 112 army supply to 97. Keep in mind the Warp Prism as well. Oh, he's going to load this up with DTs most likely. However, there are cannons prepared already for SCAstrea, as the possibility does exist that Zealots and the like will be warped into his base. And he will see this coming because of the DT holding the Watchtower. Might even get out with it. Yes, he does. And going for 4 DTs. And then he can just warp in Zealots behind this, and that will disable an opponent's production so fast. Obviously not as much as you see in Terran versus Zerg matchups because the warp in mechanic obviously can be used defensively as well, but this will be great positionally because it's forcing SCAstrea all the way back. He is completely gone from his third base. He has absolutely no units there anymore. And the DTs do manage to take out the cannon here. So he will do a fair amount of damage to his opponent's base and production as well, as take out this third base. I mean, there's absolutely no way that SCAstrea can contest this army. He's way too out of position. Now he finally realizes what is coming. But by the time he gets there, it's going to be too late. Very nice by Minigun. Just sniping the third and getting out of there. He does not want to meet up with his opponent quite yet. This will enable him to get additional Colossi on the field. Yes, at the cost of killing some of his own units, but if it comes at getting those higher tech units, it is so worth it. The DT is still wreaking havoc in his opponent's base. 1 cannon is up, 2 additional photon cannons are being warped in right now. But Minigun continuing to just be a general nuisance, depowering gateways. And this is forcing SCAstrea to effectively go all in. I mean, he is going to be rebuilding his third base, but Minigun, he has 4. He's getting those all-important Archons, which are so useful later on as the game goes on. This Warp Prism has been single-handedly the hero of this game. Eventually, we found these two, despite the fact that they went off on completely tipsy-turvy base trade scenario at the very beginning of the game. It met itself up relatively standard, both players pretty even, but Minigun's constant harassment and just nagging at his opponent, even picking up a Colossus kill, which is so important. And it's just been the saving grace. Minigun, he's been able to just sit back and macro up throughout this entire time. And we see, let's take a look at worker count right now. A couple workers have been killed there for Minigun now. Yeah, the count up to 35, wow. And a fleet beacon on the way for that mothership. Most likely not going to be for a carrier transition. As awesome as it would be. Minigun pushing forward here with a couple stalkers. This will pull his opponent out of position yet again. Although, yeah, now SCAstrea realizes what's going on. But SCAstrea is pretty zealot heavy. I mean, there are 20 zealots on the field here, at least in his army, and he has to engage down this ramp, which he does not want to do, especially against that number of Colossi. So SCAstrea will save his third base. This is really important. But Minigun sending a Zealot DT hit squad out there immediately after completion of those Stalkers' orders. And here comes the additional gate. Yeah, so it's pretty much late game for Minigun here. Very standard. A bunch of gateways, a mothership, Archons, and Colossi. This lone sentry will be used for Guardian Shield, perhaps a couple force fields, but they'll really be nullified by your opponent's Colossus sentry count, or Colossus Archon count. But SCAstrea, I mean, he's sitting pretty too. Army composition-wise, both will have the relatively similar supply. 8 Colossi to 8, 9 Archons for SCAstrea to the 8 Immortals of his opponent, and 7 Archons. So Minigun really banking on those Immortals to do a lot of damage. However, the one thing I would say would be the big difference between these players' compositions would be the Zealot count. 5 to 18. And Minigun's actually just using these sacrificially, and he does get the Nexus! This is huge. Absolutely huge. He's gonna be forced to cancel some of these gateways just to build his Nexus again. And this is the second time now that he's had to rebuild this. And meanwhile, Minigun's just getting farther and farther ahead. The more gas he mines, the easier he'll be able to deal with his opponent's army, and the more production he'll have behind it to be able to warp in upon completion of the first engagement. mean, because really all said and done, we haven't seen an actual army versus army engagement yet. It's pretty much just been SCAstrea constantly on the back foot trying to recover from Minigun's harassment. And this Warp Prism is still alive. He has not made another Warp Prism this game. Alright, so here comes SCAstrea's engagement. The first Archon Ball, a little bit too forward. Very nice positioning from Minigun, splitting his army again in prep for the engagement, and all of the Zealots instantly getting shredded. A 50 supply lead already for Minigun. He's not even producing that many in response to this engagement. Barely losing any supply when the engagement finally does occur. And yeah, SCAstrea calling GG. Minigun will take game 1. And let me check. Let's see. As far as the map order, I'm not 100% sure whether or not it will be losers picks or a set map pool. I would assume it's a loser pick format. Oh wait, am I just in the game? Whoa. I can't tell if a player lost or won, or what's going on here. Yeah, alright. Okie doke. 150 supply lead here for Minigun. SCAstrea just trying to come to grips with his loss in game 1. Mysterious Voice, do you happen to have a call on whether or not this will be a losers pick format? As I cannot tell from the